Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Senate Judiciary Committee, June 9, 2016. Roll call, please. Let's all take our seats in the back there, please, or move outside.
Committee roll call. Senator O'Toole. Here. Senator Krillos is present. I see him in the back of the room. Senator Doherty. Here. Senator Carnally is present. Thank you. Senator Oroho, who is filling in for Senator Bateman, is marked as present. Senator Sweeney, who is substituting for Senator Gill, is indicated being present. Chairman Scuteri. Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Sergeants, can you have people find their seats? Frank, get everybody to sit down or go outside. Where's my agenda? Judge of the Superior Court, Judge Joseph A.Portelli, please come forward. Okay. Judge, should move over to the center. Raise your right hand for the administration of the oath.
Hi. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to give here today is true, correct, complete, to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Please be seated.
Thank you.
Would you please address the committee with your opening statement?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, please permit me to thank Governor Christie for my renomination, and I thank my local senators, Senator Poe, Senator O'Toole, and Senator Gill, and I specifically want to thank Senator Poe and Senator O'Toole for the inordinate amount of time, of their valuable time that they spent with me over the last couple months guiding me through this process. I sincerely appreciate it. And I thank this committee for permitting me to speak to you today. I would like to get right to the point and address the complaint that was filed against me by the Advisory Committee on Judicial Conduct in September 2015. I accept this opportunity to answer any and all questions you may have in a forthright and complete manner. Initially, allow me to be clear. I accept full responsibility for all of my words and actions. I have accepted the ACJC findings, which include a dismissal of one of the counts, a partial dismissal of one of the counts, the second count, and a sustaining of the other portion of that count, and a third count being sustained. I have accepted its recommendations for the discipline, and I have waived my right to an order to show cause before our state Supreme Court. I, and no one else, am fully accountable for my words. I appear before you today fully contrite, humbled, and remorseful. Further, I want this committee to know that my intentions behind my words were never meant to insult, demean, embarrass, belittle, or disrespect any attorney or witness in my courtroom. Most importantly, again, I want this committee to know how truly sorry I am for anything that I said that offended any lawyer, witness, or litigant. I never intended to offend anyone. I previously maintained an informal atmosphere with the attorneys in my courtroom in between cases. I do want to say also that once a case began, it was formal and it was all business. But in between cases and during breaks, it was an informal atmosphere. This was due to the fact that by and large they were the same attorneys and the same Division of Child Protection and Permanency workers who appeared before me on a weekly, if not daily basis. I mistakenly believed that by being informal with the attorneys and some of the witnesses, and by creating an informal atmosphere in the court and in chambers, It would help diffuse the daily tensions begat by the difficult subject matter of child abuse and neglect. My sincere intentions of protecting children and trying to reunite families were laudable, but my approach was wrong. The informal atmosphere I created led to too many casual discussions that obviously created the problems. I now realize that innocent courtroom banter, even in between cases and during breaks, is unacceptable, and I presently maintain a formal atmosphere in my courtroom. I also recognize how the spoken word, no matter how well intended, can be interpreted in different ways. I have learned a great deal over the last year, and I assure you that my demeanor on the bench reflects the solemnity appropriate for a judge of the Superior Court of the state of New Jersey. It has been a long, agonizing 13 months since I received the initial letter from the ACJC. Not one single day has gone by that I have not thought about my situation and this case. I have been embarrassed. I've been humiliated in both my public and private lives, and I've embarrassed my family. But again, I accept full responsibility for my actions. My contrition is sincere. To those lawyers who were offended by my words, or any others, and especially to the attorney to whom I gave a misguided compliment in my chambers, I offer sincere apologies. I offer the same to the members of this committee. I have taken great pride in my work as a judge over the last 7 years, and I know I have made a difference in the lives of many Passaic County families, especially those whose cases I handled in the Children of the Courts section of the family part. I wish to continue to do the same until retirement. I thank you for this opportunity, and I am more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Senator Lesniak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to your apology, did you make that a personal apology to the attorney who was offended?
Because this case was pending, I've tried to stay away from the attorneys who were involved, and I didn't want to do anything until at least the ACJC committee hearing was finished, so as to not think that I was tampering with the witness, as they say.
Okay, but
I will do so.
Thank you.
Yes.
Senator O'Toole.
Thank you, Chair. When I first read about the accounts before sitting with Judge Portelli, I had perhaps prematurely had concluded I just couldn't see myself supporting him for tenure. Sat down with Judge Portelli twice at great length, had several conversations with him over the phone, went through in painstakingly detail the facts of each of the allegations, sat and talked to several of the litigants before him, have read probably 70 to 80 or 90 letters of reference from practitioners in front of him, talked to a handful of judges that vouched for him, and I will say at the end of this, Chair, I had concluded coming into this that while we are all mortal men and women, mistakes are made. I think you have owned up to that both by accepting, as you say, full responsibility for the ACJC findings. You say the word mistake, wrong approach, casual dismissal, informal banter. You've learned a great deal, Solomon-like. You are embarrassed, humiliated, you have contrition, and you apologize. After all of that, and after our discussions at great length, I wholeheartedly support your tenure. You did make mistakes. You owned up to them. I know we're never going to have this discussion again with you, Judge. You do a great job from the bench, putting these isolated instances aside. You are at a higher level as a judge. So coming into this before you had those in-depth explanations to me, I could not have supported your renomination by any stretch. Having spent a dozen hours with you and doing the research, I'm firmly convinced that you have the caliber, the character, and the remorse to be the quality of judge that you have been for the last 7 years, absent these isolated instances. And I will support your nomination.
I thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator O'Toole. Senator Cardinale.
Your Honor, when you were in private practice before you became a judge, did you have a great deal of exposure to family court type problems?
No. I except to the degree that I handled criminal juvenile matters.
Then you went to the bench, you were sworn in, and you got assigned at some point to the family court.
That's correct.
What kind of training was provided to you with respect to family court manners?
Well, I was specifically assigned to the children in the courts, which were the, for those who don't know, is the court that handles all of the DIFUS matters, the child abuse matters. They're now known as DCP&P, but they're commonly known or have been known as DIFUS. I never handled any family, I never handled any matrimonial matters or the court where the FD calendar where people are not married but they have custody issues or any domestic violence. I was strictly children in the courts. Before I was assigned there, when I was assigned there, I read the manual and I sat with one of the children in the court judges for approximately 10 days or so and watched what occurs in that court. So my training, to answer your question, Senator, is by reading the manual, sitting in the court watching, and for the most part, each case has many trials, of which I had a lot of experience as a criminal attorney, as a prosecutor, and sitting on the bench.
So would you characterize that training as scant?
To the degree that I was not did not attend any formal classes before I was assigned there, the answer to that question would be yes.
Now, the complaint that was lodged against you was not by a private attorney, as I understand it, but by the Attorney General. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In the cases that you were handling, was it generally the Attorney General who was one of the attorneys on one side of whatever issue was before you?
Yes.
And as I read the essence of the complaint, it was the Attorney General's office that felt you were giving them short shrift, that you were deciding cases. Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
Did you generally agree with the Attorney General's position or disagree with the Attorney General's position?
I generally ruled in their favor with respect to fact findings and guardianship trials. There were times that I did not, but I'd say if I were to guess, they prevailed more often than they did not.
So was there anything that hasn't appeared in these papers that would have given rise to any sort of angst between yourself and the Attorney General's office?
None that I'm aware of. Many times when they did not prevail, you could tell that they weren't happy about it. And most lawyers, of course, will not be happy that they didn't prevail. But I would always tell them, so this is not a court where you win or you lose. There's only one winner here, and that's the children. So when I could see that they were somewhat distraught over a ruling, that's what I would say. But I always treated them very fairly. As I treated them no differently than any other lawyer. And then the children in the courts, there are two other sets of lawyers. There are the defense attorneys who represent the parents, and there's the law guardian who represents the child or children. I can't say that I treated anybody any differently. I judged each case on its merits.
You are now not sitting in family court any longer. You're apparently sitting in the criminal division. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Senator?
You are no longer in family court?
That's correct.
You're now in the criminal division?
I'm in the criminal division.
And the primary area of your practice before you became a judge was in the criminal area?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there any likelihood you're going to be back in family court any time in the future?
Do I know if I'm going to be back?
Yes.
I have no idea. It changes year to year. It's up to the assignment judge. We don't generally get a choice.
Are plenary hearings necessary before all of the kinds of orders that you had occasion to issue when you were in family court?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Are plenary hearings a precedent to the orders that you had to issue with respect to children?
Well, that particular court is almost run, and I use this analogy loosely, like a criminal court. A complaint is filed. An answer is filed. There's a period of discovery where the attorneys exchange information about how the child was abused, what the parents have done to rectify their situation, and then we have what is called a fact-finding hearing, where I would determine whether or not the parents abused or neglected a child. If I did find that, then we set up a plan for the parent to rectify the issues that led to the removal. And then we would review how that parent or parents were doing every 3 months. And then we would, generally a case on average would last about a year, year and a half. Some went as long as 3 years. And then it was at the end of that period where it was decided whether or not the family would be reunited or it would go to a guardianship trial where termination of parental rights would be granted or not granted. And so the main finding was the fact-finding hearing, and then the FG trial or the guardianship trial if necessary. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, let me be more specific. Would it be fair to say that in every case that came before you, you did not make a decision, issue an order, prior to a hearing?
That's correct.
Where both sides of the issue would be represented?
Well, there were orders issued from day one, and that would be if a parent agreed to going for drug treatment or going for anger management, or a child was going to go to a certain school or go to a foster home or with a parent, with a relative, then I would sign an order to that effect. That would stay in effect for 3 months when we reviewed the case again.
Thank you.
Senator Smith.
Judge, having gone through this process, what do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned with regard to your own personality? Not process, but with regard to your own personality.
With respect to my personality, well, all of us develop a personality by a certain stage in our lives. But we have to separate that from our positions as judges. I have changed my personality to the degree that I am not demonstrative like I used to be. In fact, as a specific example, I saw an attorney yesterday that I hadn't seen in quite some time who came forward to give me a hug, and I stopped her from doing so. I said, no, you cannot do that, please. And I also, if I can, I will leave the bench in between cases or during breaks. And if I do stay on the bench, I have very minimal small talk, as they say, with attorneys. And in that regard, I have changed the way I conduct myself in the courthouse and in my courtroom. And I realize the demonstrative behavior on my part is more appropriate, of course, with my family and friends, and not with, even a touch on someone's shoulder or their arm. I absolutely refuse to do.
Okay. Chairman, are you planning to call the assignment judge? Would you mind if I ask the question of the assignment judge? Would the assignment judge come forward? Is the assignment judge for the vicinage available?
Judge, come on in. Come on up. Stand right. Raise your right hand for the administration yield.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to give here today is true, correct, complete, to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief? Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Judge, simple question.
Just state your name for the record.
Ernest M. Capicella, assignment judge, Passaic Vicinage.
Thank you, Judge.
When we have judges up for tenure and there's any significant issues, we usually ask the assignment judge to come forward
Yes, sir.
and give their opinion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like your opinion on the renomination of the judge.
Yeah, Judge Portelli, who sits next to me, is clearly one of the most talented judges that I have in the vicinage, and he's that for a variety of reasons. He has ability as a criminal judge. He had ability as a family court judge. He was never assigned to the civil court, although I know in his private practice he handled civil matters. So from the standpoint of having the range of ability, that's a very attractive thing for an assignment judge. Now, as far as Judge Portelli, being Judge Portelli, I think he has stated very well today what one of his problems may have been. The tension level in that courtroom for the children in the court docket is very high. It's a very difficult subject matter. A lot of people break down. Staff break down. I've seen deputy attorneys general break down. It's a very difficult environment to work in. Now, how do you cut the tension there? Judge Portelli's approach was to try to be informal, to try to make everybody feel comfortable with each other. When Judge Portelli was assigned to that docket, I was not the assignment judge, but I was the presiding judge of the family court. And we were having problems at the time, Senator. And the problems were that when you have the same group of attorneys day in and day out appearing on the same docket, and that's frequently what happens on this docket. It's very unique. So you have, the same deputy attorneys general. You have the same folks from the Office of Parental Representation. You have the same law guardians. When Judge Portelli came in, they weren't getting along for some reason. They were arguing with each other. They couldn't even agree on another date to reschedule something. I asked Judge Portelli to go there and try to get all these folks on the same page, to try to smooth things over. They were snarky with each other. They were taking the rulings, I guess, from the judge who sat there personally. There was this, as Judge Portelli said, they came out of the courtroom with, I'm either a winner or a loser, rather than the kids, the children are the winners. And so I sent them there and said, Judge Portelli, go there and do something with that. And his approach was to go there, and he created this kind of informal atmosphere. That was his approach. But the problem with that, I think he's learned now, is that, the borders break down as far as what's right and what's wrong and what can be said. People then start to become too casual, and that's not a good thing. I did stop them from fighting with each other, but it did create this atmosphere that resulted in these other problems. He is an outstanding judge. He's in the criminal division now. That's his wheelhouse. It always was. He was a criminal trial attorney, a very good one. He's been on the criminal bench before. Outstanding performance since I've been the assignment judge. I assigned him back to criminal. He's been outstanding. And quite honestly, Senator, I know you've probably heard it a million times. All the senators have heard it. With criminal justice reform, I really need my best judges back in criminal now. So I can't tell you enough how important he is to the Passaic-Vicinage bench. So that's my thoughts on Judge Portelli.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Smith, thank you. Anything else? Senators, for the judge or his assignment judge? Senator Weinberg? Because we have some witnesses I have to bring up next.
Question. Thank you to the assignment judge. Thank you, Judge Portelli. We did spend a little time on the phone yesterday going through your explanation. I have a couple of questions. First, you said part of the charges were dismissed.
Yes.
Which of the allegations were dismissed?
Where I made the comment.
Would you turn the other microphone off in that way? Yeah.
The count, there was an allegation that I made a comment in a certain manner while one of the children was on my knee, and I said something. An attorney said to me, "Judge, can I sit on your lap next?" And I said, "No, you cannot." And not thinking and not using my head, I just said to the Attorney General that was sitting there, I said, "No, you cannot either." That was dismissed. The attorney, the Deputy Attorney General that I said that to indicated that even prior to the filing of the complaint, that she was not offended by it. She didn't think anything of it. But that was dismissed. The other part of the complaint that was dismissed, one of the second part, one of the second counts, the second count had two parts to it. The one section of that where it was alleged that I made an improper comment by saying that I found guardianship trials tedious, that was dismissed. Those allegations are unfounded.
Okay. You know, what you just said must have been difficult in your opening statement, difficult for you and for people around you, for which I understand. And my impression was, after talking to you and reading some of the documents, that there was a little too much collegiality within the confines of the courtroom. Having said that, and I'm not sure that this is your responsibility, but we received two different documents, both entitled Gubernatorial Nominee Questionnaire, number 1, and Gubernatorial Nominee Questionnaire, number 2. You and I went over that on the phone yesterday, and I don't think you could sort it out. But in the first document,
Senator, just so we're clear, this is really more of a question of process for the OLS or our staff. But you can ask. Just I don't expect the judge to answer this, but.
Well, you didn't let me get the question out. I did have something I was going to say.
Go ahead then. I'm sorry.
Comma. There's always a comma there. In gubernatorial questionnaire number 1, where the question was asked, have you ever been, I can't find the exact question now, but have you ever been disciplined was the essence of that question. And you said no, and explained to me, you could fill in the gap.
Yes, that question, those questions all should be answered specifically. That question was answered in February of 2016. At that time, I had not been found to have, I was not reprimanded by the ACJC. The matter was still pending. I made reference in questionnaire number 2 that there was a complaint pending. So the specific question was, have you ever been reprimanded? At that point in time, I had not been.
Okay, just generally, did you feel in any way in questionnaire number 1, and again, because I was confused about the paperwork, and I agree with the chairman on that, when OLS has to straighten that out. You and I couldn't straighten it out on the phone yesterday as we were going through what was in front of me. But did you, this is really my question. In questionnaire number 1, by the way, they're both dated February. Even
think I sent
questionnaire
them in on
number
the
2,
same
again,
day.
not your responsibility, but that you should have said something on that first document about that you knew the Supreme Court was looking
Well-
at you, and I'm not sure whether there was some place on that document to state that.
I can only answer that by saying I answered it as a lawyer would answer it, and that is I answered the specific question, have you ever been reprimanded? I had not been. But I was well aware of the complaint at that point in time, and questionnaire number 2, which I answered on the same day and sent in on the same day, asked about was there anything pending, and I answered yes, and in fact I attached the ACJC complaint to it. So
Sent in on the same day as which?
both questionnaires went in. I mailed them both in on the same day. So I wasn't trying to hide anything.
Okay, well, if you mailed them both in on the same day, questionnaire number 1, where it says, have you ever been reprimanded, you said no.
And I hadn't been at that point in
But
time.
you just said questionnaire number 2 you mailed in on the same day.
Right, but questionnaire
So
number
after you did questionnaire number 1, have you ever been, I'm not sure if the right word was reprimanded.
Okay. If I ever amended my answer, no, I was neglectful in that respect. I mean, since April 6th or since May when the reprimand was sent to me, I did not amend my answer. But I don't know if that's your question.
No, you didn't mail them in on the same day.
Which one?
Because the reprimand came out in April or May, and that's when questionnaire number 2 came.
No, questionnaire number 2. If you just give me a second, I have the envelope that I sent.
Okay, I think you get the point here. I wanted to know about the question, were you ever reprimanded, and then the later, yes, I was reprimanded.
Well, I have an envelope that indicates copies of judiciary questionnaires number 1, number 2, sent out on February 29, 2016. And at that point, on February 29, 2016, I had never been reprimanded by any ethics committee or ethics panel.
Where you listed the reprimand? That wasn't mailed on the same day. It was
Sent in on, questionnaire number 2 was sent in on the same day.
Senator, if I may, can I? It sounds to me may through the chair, can I ask, your first questionnaire, you answered it because it was asked whether or not you have ever had any kind of disciplinary or reprimand at that moment.
That's correct.
Then the other question on questionnaire number 2, the question was slightly different. The question was, do you have any pending reprimand or whatever, and that anything pending? And that's when you provided the detailed information of what was scheduled to take place but not have been concluded at that time.
That's correct.
Both of which you filled out at the same time and both mailed at the same time. One was you had not ever been reprimanded beforehand, and the other questionnaires indicated whether or not you had anything pending. So you were answering the question as it was asked in the actual question. Is that, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want to make sure that that's what you're trying to provide the information to the members of this committee.
Okay. On questionnaire, that's correct. And let me just read the answer here. Question number 8 asks, have you ever been the subject of a complaint to any court, administrative agency, bar association, disciplinary committee, or any other professional group for a breach of ethics, unprofessional conduct, and any violation of any rule of practice? If so, give details. I answer yes. There is an ACJC complaint currently pending against me. Attached here too is a copy of the complaint and the answer to same.
Okay, now, when the actual reprimand was issued by the court, was there another questionnaire?
No. No, there was that I had to answer. There was not another questionnaire.
Updated the committee just as part.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I think when the state police officer conducted my four-way investigation, I believe I indicated, I think at that point I had been reprimanded and I provided that information. About a month
Let me just
ago.
clarify this one issue so we're clear. I mean, it looks as though both of those answers at the time were accurate. Now, there is this oath. It's buried. It's kind of hard to see it. Some people miss it. It's that you understand you have a duty to amend the questionnaire within 30 days of any occurrence that would change or render incomplete any of the answers contained herein, and to immediately notify the Office of Legislative Services of the impending change. So, to your point, I think at the point in time that the judge answered the questions, they all seemed to be accurate, and they were accurate. There's the question about the discipline. There's the question about the pendings. He answered no, and then he said yes, and here it is. There is a requirement that if anything changes, that within 30 days you notify us.
Belabor that any more than I have, but this paperwork is confusing, and we had difficulty straightening it out as we talked on the phone yesterday. Again, not your responsibility. We were both going through two documents via telephone. But this needs clarification generally. And I'd just like to point out, I did read through all the letters that we received on this particular nominee, and practically all the letters are generic issues about family court, not about you. There's only one even that mentions you specifically. All these letters are about people's problems with family court generally. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Understand?
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon.
Judge, I followed your matter somewhat the best I could. I read all the material. You came here today. You admitted that you made a mistake. I mean, we all make mistakes. You've had a great record as a judge. I can only imagine how difficult this has been on you and your family. You have my support. I think you deserve the committee's support. I think you got to look at the totality of someone's record. You've done a great job as a judge. The assignment judge is here today supporting you, and that's good enough for me.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me just say, if I may, I really appreciate all the questions and the comments that's been raised at today's hearing. I've had the opportunity to know Judge Portelli for many, many years before he became a judge. I find, I know him, I know his family, and I know certainly our assignment judge who has spoken so very eloquently about Judge Portelli. I know that Judge Capicella does not say things just that easily without absolutely recognizing the importance of the description and information that he wants this committee to and every member to fully understand and have. I'd like to just make mention of the fact that knowing Judge Portelli, it's unfortunate, and I think you've heard it here, it's unfortunate the situation that occurred. It is certainly not characteristic of the type of person that he is and of the person that I know. I've always known him to be a very respectful and person and someone who absolutely takes full responsibility and understanding of the letter of the law and has a great respect in regards to his position. I know that I will be supporting him. I think it's important, and you've heard it directly from him. He is certainly very remorseful for the comments and the actions that both happened in his courtroom and beyond that. I take him for his word. I know that this was a very, very difficult time, but a time that allows everyone to really learn lessons. And this is just a learning experience, a difficult one and a costly one, and a very embarrassing one, as he pointed out. But today, I think that his renomination or confirmation, pardon me, to this, to continue his work on the bench is one that would be the right decision to make, and for that reason, I will be supporting his nomination. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
I just have one question. Most of these comments that we're talking about here, are these all off the record or on the record? Like, were they recorded? Or
All off the record.
They were all off the record.
All off the
So
record.
if you, I mean, you had to, there was a discussion as to whether or not you actually said this specific words, because there was no transcription of the commentary.
That's correct.
I mean, I could tell, I may be one of the few lawyers that still goes to court regularly, but I've had a lot worse things said to me over the years off the record. I mean, I couldn't even share with you in public the things that I've been said to. I'll tell you back in the back, but the words and names that I've been called. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm not suggesting that anything in terms of. I think you explained it thoroughly, and I appreciate that. But, and I'm not saying we should get worse, but I've experienced a lot of name calling. Let's put it that way. Okay. No other questions for the witnesses at this time. Oh, Senator Cardinale has another question.
Your Honor, I think we all understand now that there was a complaint made, that the complaint was judged by the ACJC. But what happened as a result of their ruling? What was the consequence?
As far as
the ruling, did they fine you?
Did
they suspend you for any period of time?
This is the consequence.
I understand.
For the most part.
No, there's no fine. There is no. There could be a suspension. There could be a private reprimand. What they gave me was what they issued was a public reprimand for what they found that I had said, which I think in essence comes down to it goes in your file and it doesn't go away, and it could be referred to in the future if there's another complaint. But as far as a fine is concerned or a suspension, those are fines are not a possibility. Suspensions are. But what they gave me was what they call a public reprimand.
Let me just follow up with that. So, as the judge said, that's all accurate, and there are different levels of discipline that can be meted out against judges. This was the one level that this judge received was a public reprimand. There are suspensions. There are a number of different things that they can do. We can get that information as well.
So, in effect, that ruling led to a few more questions at this hearing than you might otherwise have had.
Well, I think it led to a lot more than that, personally. I've had to, it's been in the press and it's been, it's out there. So, it's, in addition to the questions here, I have something that I'm not quite proud of in my file.
Does it make you less viable as a judge?
Less viable?
Less viable. Are you? Does it compromise?
No, not at all.
In some way, your efficacy as a judge, that lawyers may come before you who know about this because it has been in the press. I read it in the press. That's how it first came to my attention, was in the press.
It will definitely not affect the way I rule in my courtroom. I have always made it a point of being as fair as I can possibly be. And if anything, what it's done is it's made my courtroom much more formal than it had been in the past. Again, the Children in the Courts was closed to the public, so it was generally the lawyers only that were in there. But overall, my sense of fairness was never compromised. I learned about these allegations in May of 2015. The complaint was not formally filed until October or September. And in between that time, I still listened to all of my cases and judged them as they should have been judged. That's fairly and on the merits. I went to work every day and did what I had to do.
Judge, I believe that.
Thank you.
I believe that. I have good reason to believe that because I've heard from others who I respect that that is the case. But let me pose a question to the assignment judge.
Yes, Senator.
What is the likelihood that Judge Portelli, while you are still the assignment judge, would ever be assigned back into any portion of the family division?
Not very likely. Not very likely. And I could say that not because I don't think he would be fair and do a good job if he went back there, but I need him in the criminal division very badly. And I can tell you that every assignment judge in the state of New Jersey right now needs their best talent, their best criminal judge talent in the criminal division because of the very challenging aspects of speedy trial and criminal justice reform. So to answer your question, Senator Cardinale, slim to none.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Judge. I'm going to excuse you to the front row for a few moments. I got some witnesses that would like to testify on your nomination. We're going to call them up. We'll call them up as a panel. Why don't you call them?
There are three individuals, all indicating opposition to the nomination. We have Raymond Farzan, representing FCLU, Tobin Ippolito, and also Rooney Sahai.
Okay, any of those individuals wish to testify? We did get their written submission, but if they want to testify here, they can. They do not have to. They let me see who they are again. And they are opposed to the nomination. Raymond Farzan, opposed, did submit a letter. Tobin Ippolito, opposed, did submit a letter in opposition, and Rooney Shah, a member of the public, opposed, and I think that they did submit a letter as well. Okay, sir, why don't you remain standing, raise your right hand, and first, what is your name?
Raymond Farzan.
Raymond Farzan, okay.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I'm sorry, sir. Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give here today is true, correct, complete, the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farzan. What do you wish to tell us about the nomination of the judge that we've been talking about today?
I am the president of FCLU, Families Civil Liberties Union. We are a gender-neutral organization. We are a national organization, and I'm actually the president of New Jersey chapter. I have to tell you something which is probably a warning for New Jersey, that we are growing very fast nationally, but unfortunately the state of New Jersey brings us the most victims. You know, the rate of growth of New Jersey chapter is the highest nationwide. And a while ago, probably a year ago, 9 months ago, we received a few complaints about Judge Portelli, and we set up a conference call on Tuesday, I believe on Tuesday night from 9 to 10, and everybody, you know, cried and grieved, and we basically told them that the best way is to go to ACJC. And that's basically how...
You're here as a representative, right? You never appeared in front of the judge yourself?
No. I live in Monmouth County. I have, different views on problems in Monmouth County Court. And the best spin that I can put on New Jersey Family Court, because this is, I want to be respectful, is the New Jersey Family Court are, chaotic and lawlessness. New Jersey Family Court do not follow the U.S. Constitution.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we're here to, my opinion, we're here to rule on Judge Portelli. I don't think we're prepared to have a discussion on the status of the family courts in the state of New Jersey. I mean, it appears he wants to have a debate, and I'm not saying what your comments are right, wrong, or different, but we're here really to discuss the reappointment of Judge Portelli, and I don't want that reappointment to be dragged into maybe a larger dispute or context over how the family court judges are working in the state of New Jersey. So I respect the witness, but I don't think his testimony is relevant to the matter at hand.
Well,
Yes, Senator, I'll let you, I'll give you a little latitude. Tell us what you want to tell us about this nominee and what else you want to tell us.
Okay, I'm opposed to his renomination or reappointment because he's the tip of the iceberg. If by doing that, if you renominate him, you send the wrong message to the other judges who are doing, who are violating the laws every day in family courts, and also it will further weakens the trust of New Jersey people of New Jersey into the state government.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right. Any questions for the witness? No. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay. Someone else is here. Come on up, sir. What is your name? What's your name?
I just want to get before the mic. My name is Tobia Ippolito.
So you signed up. Okay.
I did, sir. And
Okay.
I gave written presentations that
This
were
is
issued in the
Tobia
handbook.
Ippolito. Okay, sir, you want to stand back up and raise your right hand?
Oh, certainly.
Good afternoon. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give here today is true, correct, complete, to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
As always, I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Ippolito, what do you wish to tell us about Judge Portelli?
Okay, I've actually provided a written presentation, and I'm going to skip parts. I will refer to page numbers so that I can expeditiously go through it and then address the comments that I heard here by both Judge Capicella and Judge Portelli himself, as I don't believe that they were accurate. And I will be specific and clear and helpful.
Before you begin, for the members of the committee, there is a 7-page document that has been supplied, which is a 7-page letter with subtitles by Mr. Ippolito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I am a lifelong New Jersey resident. I come before you as a citizen concerned for the future of our state and a focus on the broken judiciary. I am here today to contest the reappointment of New Jersey Superior Court Judge Joseph A. Portelli of Wayne. I have read the New Jersey Supreme Court complaint against Mr. Judge Portelli under docket number ACJC 2015-093. I have read the respondent's answer carefully to the complaint. I have followed the press articles and watched this matter in an extraordinarily diligent fashion. I stand here or sit here today before you as a person who stands up against judicial misconduct, judicial retaliation, and a person who's got the guts to do it because I am the victim of judicial retaliation that is proven in New Jersey. I am going to skip my biography. You could be the judge on whether you think I'm credible or not. I'm a lifelong New Jersey resident, and I built my life and my career, and it has been decimated by the New Jersey family courts. The common occurrence of constitutional right violations in family courts leads to significant appellate division volume and costs on the taxpayers. In fact, the appellate division processes over 8,000 appeals annually. That is an indicator that there are problems at the lower courts. I'm going to skip the specifics that are in writing in my complaint. However, both on the record and off the record, the first time I walked into a courtroom, the judge referred to me and my family as tomatoes. Disgusting, okay? He was then caught off the record calling me a jerk and saying he hated me. Yes, that was another judge. The reason why I bring that up.
Let me just be clear here, because people don't know. That was not Judge Portelli what you're talking about here.
That's correct. But here's why
I'm not saying it's not relevant. I want them to understand what you're saying.
the reason why that's relevant.
That was not also not Judge Portelli, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. That was Judge Michael E. Hubner. Both.
So the two judges that you've talked about so far is Judge Philip Menza and Judge Hubner? Okay. So that complaint is about Judge Critchley.
Yes, but my point.
Thank you, sir. Just some clarification. I think the order was signed of reprimand on May 18th of 2016. That was the order of reprimand, just so, because I have it in front of me. Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. No other witnesses signed up? Okay. There is? Oh, I tried to call you all up at once.
Afternoon. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give here today is true, correct, complete, to best of your knowledge, information, and belief? I do. Thank you.
There is? Oh, I tried to call you all up at once.
Afternoon. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give here today is true, correct, complete, to best of your knowledge, information, and belief? I do. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of this committee, meet my adult daughter who is deemed imminent peril by the state of New Jersey. You notice her IV? June 6, 2015, last year, same week, she was sent to the emergency room at Valley Hospital, Bergen County. Courtesy Judge Wilcox. Judge Wilcox knowingly ordered her away from her respirator and her home ICU. Judge threw in the garbage all physician certifications that cautioned her death if she's removed from her medically safe home. Judge Wilcox pursued her for 1 year and denied her request for her own attorney.
Sir, can I just ask you?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever appear in front of Judge Portelli?
I did not.
What do you want to tell me about Judge Portelli's nomination?
Judge Portelli served in the family division, I take it. I am here because my testimony pertains to the family division.
So your issue here is with the family division of, is it with a particular county even?
I'm in the county of Bergen.
So you have an issue with the Bergen County Family Division of Judges. I have your letter here. You supplied a 1.5-page letter with respect to your daughter and something that the Department of Human Services deemed and some issues that you had. But this is a hearing about Judge Portelli. I'll give you a little leeway, but I have to know what you want to tell us about Judge Portelli.
Mr. Chairman, I just need 60 seconds.
Go ahead, I'll give it.
The common thread in all the litigants who are moms and dads who come before these committees is this. Family court judges routinely violate civil, constitutional, and due process rights of families. And they're destroying American families daily. Mr. Chairman, can you at least get me a letter of apology from the Bergen vicinage? Family courts need much greater scrutiny. They're dealing with children and young adults. And they need training to handle the needs of families, especially with disabilities. And family court victims need a hearing to tell their stories. You know, I've listened to testimonies here by state employees, judges, and assignment judges who tell you all is well. The truth is quite the opposite in family court. In my own experience in family court, judges act with malice and partiality routinely. And on the issue of reappointing bad judges, and yes, I was not before Judge Portelli, let me say this to you. You reappoint Judge Portelli, it's akin to telling a bad doctor to change his specialty and go practice in the next county. Mr. Chairman, the public is demanding real justice for these downplayed incidents by bad judges. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Judge Portelli, why don't you come back up? Senators, any further questions based upon the testimony that you heard? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to release the nominee. Moved by Senator Sarlo, seconded by Senator Poe. Roll call on the nomination.
On the nomination.
Can I just ask Judge Portelli a question, a general question?
I asked you that.
Thank you.
I just asked, but go ahead.
Do you think that there is enough training for family court judges?
I don't think I'm in a position to answer that. Not because I don't want to. I've never sat in any of the other parts of the family court. As I stated before, the matrimonial division, the juvenile division, the non-dissolution where people are split apart but they're not married. So I can't answer that question. I was comfortable with what I was given when I went to the children in the courts.
You're comfortable with the training you got before you went to what we commonly used to call the DIFAS court?
I'm sorry?
I said you're comfortable with the training you received before you went to what we used to call the DIFAS court?
Yes, I am, because it still had to do with trial work. And I was a I was in court every day of my career trying cases, and then listened to trials as a judge from day one. So I was quite comfortable where I was.
Roll call, please.
On the nomination, Senator O'Toole. Senator Curlos. Senator Doherty. Senator Cardinale.
I agree with the witnesses that what we do here sends messages. And we are probably the court of last resort with respect to weeding out from the judiciary those who shouldn't be there. But Judge Portelli, I was prepared yesterday to vote no. The hearing has led me to believe that he would be the wrong example for us to make. I don't want anyone to think that as a result of this vote, this committee, me in particular, is condoning bad judges going forward. But I am going to vote yes because while I think his demeanor in the courtroom was bad, I think he will correct that. While I believe that the ACJC is a paper tiger, because even when they find against someone, they don't smash his fingers with a ruler like the nuns used to do when I was in grammar school. They didn't fine him. They didn't even scold him. They did a very, very lenient thing. And I think they send a message to the public that they're going to circle the wagons even when you have really bad judges. Really bad judges. We had one the other day. And we had an assignment judge came and tell us everything was wonderful. But that's not Judge Portelli. He is, according to some of the people who worked with him, who took the opportunity, I took the opportunity to speak with him. He is great in the position in which he is now placed. I made the earlier comment or asked the earlier question, Senator Weinberg picked up on it, and I believe the court is at fault for not giving the people that it assigns to family appropriate training, because very few of those lawyers who have suddenly become judges have the experience or the knowledge or the training to handle that particular area of the law. And that's what we see in this committee all the time. The complaints are about what happens in family court. We don't get complaints about what happens in criminal court. We don't get complaints about what happens in civil court for the most part. We get complaints about the family court. And the system has to change. We have to correct that system because it does harm to a lot of people. But thank you for giving me a little leeway, Mr. Chairman. I will vote yes.
Thank you, Senator Cardinale. Seeing as that you and I sponsor most of the family court stuff in New Jersey in the last couple of years.
Continuing with the vote, Senator Oroho has indicated yes. Senator Weinberg?
Yeah, I publicly identified myself with Senator Cardinale's remarks about the training for family court. It's probably one of the, if not the most emotionally ridden courtrooms because of all the obvious issues around the emotions of divorce, child custody, what's in the best interests of the children, and I agree. That's where we get most of our complaints about specific judges. And in fact, the testimony we heard this morning or this afternoon is not aimed at Judge Portelli, nor was the correspondence we received. It's all about family court. So I gave a lot of thought to this. I think your apology was heartfelt, and I don't think it was easy to do. Maybe more of us in public office might learn how to publicly apologize for things. So with that in mind and with the assurance that we're never going to get another letter about you, I'm going to vote yes.
Senator Stack and Smith have indicated yes. Senator Sarlo.
I'm going to vote yes, and actually to Senator Carnelli's comments about having his fist smashed with a ruler, I think he would have preferred to have that, because I think he admitted it here very significantly how embarrassed he was. I've seen the emotion on his face on the front page of a newspaper, which is always difficult. So he has taken this head on. He has recognized his comments were inappropriate. Those in the legal community in North Jersey have nothing but great things to say about the work that he's done in the courtroom. And because of his ability to take it head on and admit it to not just to us, but to his fellow colleagues and to ACJC and every other body that he's had to appear before, I think he'll become a better judge after we grant him tenure today. So I will support, and I vote yes.
Senator Poe.
Thank you very much. My vote is yes. I know that many of us have already spoken, and we've had the opportunity to listen to the comments, and I know that today would be a very different day in the life of Judge Portelli, and I know that moving forward he will continue to be the judge that we all voted for when he first came before us back 7 years ago. So my vote is confident. Very, very supportively, I say yes.
Senators Lesniak and Sweeney have indicated yes. Chairman Scuteri.
Let me say to members of the public and to our members on the committee that I think that judges could not take the ACJC complaints that they get more seriously. I think that although there's not a monetary penalty, there is a significant penalty that they do sustain in their public life and private life when judges are disciplined. They take it extremely seriously because of the rarity of it, and there are any number of different types of discipline that they can met out against judges. So I wouldn't think that we need to do anything more. But to the witnesses that have taken their time to be here today, we do listen to you. I try to give as much leeway as I can when people take time out to be here, especially when they've been in front of a particular judge, because that's really what we're here to hear about, not necessarily larger complaints. But we hear them, and I can speak for myself, and I know that Senator Carnelli has joined me in many pieces of legislation, that the legislature has, and we've started to kind of delve into it, has kind of ignored family law issues for many, many years. And I think that we have delved into it, and I want to compliment Senator Carnelli for working with me on several pieces of legislation that has kind of made more narrowly tailored rulings able to be done by judges, and we expect to do more with that. But it is an area that is filled with angst. It is difficult, and it is a tough area to kind of satisfy everyone with. But we do take those complaints seriously. I know that this committee does take seriously judicial tenure hearings as well as initial ones. It has not been the practice to not hear those complaints. We have knocked judges down. We have broken tenure. We have done things that are necessary. I don't believe that's necessary today. The family court is a difficult assignment, and I would say to Senator Carnelli, he's right. Most of the complaints we get are about judges that have served a significant period of time in the family division. I can only explain that by the people that are not happy with the results that they've gotten. We can try to help them work to improve that, but it is generally that. I mean, I guess in the criminal division, most of the people are not here to complain because they're probably incarcerated, so they probably couldn't come and complain. So I'd imagine that's one of those reasons. But with that, I'm satisfied with the explanation that the judge has given today, and I am certain that he will continue to do the best that he can and improve on the things that he's done in the past 7 years. With that, I vote yes.
Nomination is released.
And the nomination is released. Congratulations, Judge. Best of luck to you. Can I have a motion on the balance of the list?